Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are looking at the Cobra Night Raven and the extra flight pod that comes with it. This was first released in 1986 with the Strato Viper. It was also sold in 87 and unfortunately was discontinued in 1988. Looking at it, here's the Strato Viper himself. Came with the wonderful iconic jet, the Night Raven. Really taking cues from the SR 71. We have the Night Raven with its kind of drone there, which had been used in many different instances. And I, in a silly way, sometimes the dimensions always seem to change depending on what the cartoon really needed. If they were picking up one person or two or whatever, it's amazing how sometimes different planes had extra room in there. Um, it worked, especially for us as kids and all that. I don't know how many people really paid attention to it when we were kids watching this, but here we are. So, looking at yojo.com, we have a wonderful front view of this, and then we have a rear view. There is like a lever underneath here, so when we pull that back, we got to raise the landing gear. I'm sure that we will get to see that here shortly. I believe this is the landing gear right underneath the center of the fuselage behind the front wheel. And there's the other side. And this is actually a gun mount for everyone that didn't get this, which is most of us, I'm sure. I don't know. There was this extra gun back here to try and shoot anyone that was tailing them. Okay, so, like I said, in the middle of the fuselage, there is kind of a lever. It looks kind of like a fin, but that was actually your lever to raise and lower our landing gear. And we had some missile pods on the side, on the wing struts. The cockpit opened up and actually slid down. Um, and it was an interesting take on how to do this. And there's also a bomb bay on the inside from the looks of it. Um, just wonderful views. Okay, and then we have some of the parts. And of course, these are going to be a lot of the parts that get lost. And I'm sure it's going to mention all these as we look through this. Having some nice views of it. Here's the missile to go inside here. Here's our bomb. These two pieces right here are our top gun mount assembly. And then this goes onto our kind of drone fighter. So, and then here is for our raising and lowering of our cockpit here, and then this is for our landing gear. And then there's bomb bay, and there's our bombs again, and canopy, and that's our cockpit. So we could actually have two figures in there plus one in the drone. So, all right. Now I'm going to kind of stop this a little on the earlier side. I know that there's plenty of pictures here. Wonderful box art. So the Night Raven, the missiles and bombs are small and easily lost. So from Sunbow, this is one of the iconic views that we have of it. And then, of course, G.I. Joe Special Missions, and there it is on the cover as well. And the Night Raven. Now, this is the old, I think, more or less one of the original file cards. Okay, so weight is 160,000 pounds. Speed, it goes Mach 3.32 at 86,000 feet. Otherwise, it goes Mach 3.5 for short sprints. Range is 3,250 miles. It has two 30-millimeter chain guns with 900 rounds each, which does not take very long for these guns to really shoot through them. Taking from some of the things that were brought up in World War II, and knowing, playing a lot of flight simulators and stuff like that, you sit there, you pull that trigger, and you're just blasting for a weight. quite a while, if I can speak correctly here tonight. The reality is, most of these fighters, even though they may have like 1,000 rounds in them, with or well, 1,000 rounds per gun for um, like 50 calibers or whatever. Quite often, they only had maybe 15 seconds worth of shooting time. So, I mean, they were just kind of blowing through ammo very quickly. So, um, all right. So, note, high altitude aircraft is used for various covert and intelligence gathering missions, as well as high speed pursuit attack craft. Crew of two includes intelligence and weapons specialist officer. So it's a multi-role. So your pilot's going to be in the front. Your co-pilot's going to take care of all your um, intelligence and any weapons firing from there. And then we also have the third one, and the third one didn't actually have wheels. It always docked onto there, and we just went from there. Or at least not that I remember it ever having wheels. Now maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so in a newer file card, we have S3 high altitude attack and reconnaissance craft. This is weighs about 80 tons, speed fully loaded, Mach 3.3 at 86,000 feet, Mach 3.5 for a short sprint capability, range is 3,250 miles. So I think all that is pretty much the same. It still has two 30mm chain guns with 900 rounds each. It has 8 internal rotary launcher-based short-range air-to-air missiles. So now it's putting the missiles inside. And I think in doing that, it makes it a little on the stealthier side. Um, if you want to say that the Night Raven is supposed to be a stealthier take on the SR-71, yes or no, I don't know how you want to really kind of look at it, although it is very iconic looking at it. But all right, the Cobra Night Raven is a beautiful a beautiful sight to observe as long as it's not attacking you. Everything about this aircraft is pure aerodynamic perfection. From its sleek surfaces to the powerful engines, it takes a special oops. It takes a specially surgically altered pilot to fly it in order for them to survive the high speeds and g-forces um, that pound the body. But there are Cobra jet jockeys lined up for just these operations. An expensive machine to maintain and produce, Cobra tends to leave these in the hangars until just that special mission comes along. The Night Raven is capable of taking high altitude videos and photos, transmitting them back to base. And unfortunately, the software oh no, wait a minute. And slipping away unseen by even the most sophisticated surveillance equipment. Um, I've got like a little block here. That's what I was kind of saying, that if I can't scroll up, then I won't be able to read the rest of this, which I was able to. All right. So really, this is taking the same playbook as what the SR-71 is. It's just that it's got some armament on here, where normally the SR-71, I don't believe actually has any armament of its own. Of course, we see it being thrown out in the G.I. Joe cartoon and that whenever they just need to throw out vehicles. Now, it doesn't mean that, I know that there are Joes that have stolen these or whatever else. It doesn't mean you can't fly it at any rate. It just means that if you're going to take this and you're going to fly it at its maximum speeds, you're going to take a huge pounding and probably come out worse for wear. Okay, so the Night Raven can recon or reach velocities in excess of 3 times the speed of sound, enabling it to infiltrate any field of operation within seconds. This heavily armed fighter craft should never be overlooked. If you engage the Night Raven in battle, heavy air support should be called in immediately. And whatever you do, don't stop moving. Okay. Um, Usually with big craft like this that go really fast, they have very big turn arcs. Um, that does get to be a little bit of their downfall. And of course, then this, I believe, is the toy commercial. Um, and then we have a couple variations of this. So originally, it's the Night Raven. Then we have the Sky Patrol, so then it becomes a Sky Raven, all nice and silver, and it goes back to being the Night Raven. So in '86 we have the Night Raven, in 1990 the Sky Raven, and then back in 2009 it's the Night Raven again. Although it does look like it was kind of updated a little bit in the view, unless it's just how the picture looks. It looks like it's been kind of modified. We're going to click on this. Why not? It looks interesting enough. And yeah, that is a slightly different look to it. And it does have a different, it looks very, very similar. Um, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but yeah, okay, so it's an updated version of it, which looks really cool. I give it a lot of props. It looks very nice. All right, we're going to go back to our Night Raven. Um, Oddly enough, oh my God, the think about this, this was $17.99, so just about $20 by the time it's all said and done. But you got to realize $20 was quite a bit back then. I mean, you know, you weren't making $20 an hour, so um, yeah, it's funny to think about it in today's day and age. That's not a big thing, but back then it would have been a huge thing. And I get a little kitty cat come to visit me. All right, so we'll switch on over here. Okay, so we look at this in our uh, GI Joe Star Wars setting here. This is at Starfighter scale, so that does take it up a little bit higher. It is 107 feet long, so that's 32.6 meters. Has a crew of two, passengers of none. Cargo capacity, I gave it a 45 kilogram capacity. Really not knowing where I should put that or not, but that's what I decided to give it. Uh, we have it at full coverage. So again, uh, with the same thought that I was thinking with a lot of the other ones, altitude. I figured that if we're saying it's got the technology from say Star Wars um, coming into the world, and we're making our fighter jets or redoing them or whatever, why not make it a starfighter anyways? So I give it a space of 10. This is supposed to be really nice and fast, so why don't we actually bump that up? I'm thinking that that might not be good enough. I'm going to make it a 12, so that puts it pretty much on par with like our A-wing starfighters, which are faster, um, nice and fast. Um, I think that that's pretty good. Maneuverability, I gave it a 3D, being about 1D above average. Um, it's always that fight there. I mean, where do you really place that? Um, I think that they had always kind of made it seem like it was very agile. I know that when things are going faster, it's harder to turn, and usually you have a wider turn arc. But they always made it seem like it turned pretty decent. So I think we'll leave it there for now. If you think it should be changed or whatever, let me know in the comments. Um, Otherwise, move in an atmosphere. We have a Mach 3.5, and we're just kind of going from there. So weapons, we have our two missile launchers with 6 missiles each. They're at starfighter scale. Has a fire control of 2D plus 2 and damage of 7D per missile. And I also gave it a twin blaster cannon because it had the twin 30 millimeter. Let's see, what do we have? This is at starfighter scale, so it's actually beefed up. Has a fire control of 3D and damage of 5D. So I think that's pretty respectable. Um, 30 millimeter can shoot through quite a bit. But like I said, here's the other thing. This is starfighter scale. So if you go up to a tank, your tank's going to be at Walker scale. So that 5D now suddenly becomes a 7D. So I think this works out pretty decent in that regard. And that's really the weapon systems we have on um, the Night Raven itself. Now, once we look at the Night Raven drone, again, it's at starfighter scale. This is at 15 feet long, so 4.5 meters. It can either fly itself or um, it could be manually piloted. Has passengers of one. Um, Cargo capacity 45 kilograms. So I just kind of kept that as a standard. That was one of those standard kind of weights that was thrown around in Star Wars. So I figured that's kind of a standard weight. We'll just leave that as that. It is going to be a full coverage. Space range. I give it a space speed of 6. This is more of a drone. It is not meant to be as fast as the Night Raven itself. I figure 6 is pretty good. It is a small craft. I didn't want to get too fast here, but I did give it a maneuverability of 3D. With a speed of 6, I think that did equate down to seeing a lot of the other ones that were 6. I think that's how I came up with this. So it's about 950 kilometers an hour. And I gave it a body strength of 2D plus 2, so a little bit above average. Like I said, this is a smaller ship. It's not going to have all the other things here. And I gave it a twin blaster cannon, keeping it pretty much on par with the Night Raven, fire control of 3D and damage of 5D. I thought that was pretty respectable. Um, not trying to get too overpowered on anything, just trying to keep things in the similar ballpark. Quite often, when I was trying to design a lot of this stuff, I would look at other spacecraft, starfighters, and that in the Star Wars universe and kind of base things off of some of the things I would see there. Um, Trying to think of it in those regards to say, hey, does this fit or is this going to be too powerful in comparison? So if we do a mashup here, how does that work out? Not trying to overpower anything. So that's kind of why I did some of the things I did when I'm coming up with a lot of these stats. Because there is that potential I could throw one in with the other. Um, let's just say that we have a fleet of Night Ravens that are now the main starfighter for whatever group, and they're all parked there on say a Star Destroyer or something like that, or whatever other spacecraft that we have to be a GI Joe equivalent. Because Cobra's come out with a couple of really huge craft of their own in the cartoon and that. So, it's not to say that there couldn't be that possibility that they make their own, essentially, like a Star Destroyer or something that they park all these on. So I'm just kind of keeping all that in mind here. Um, so that's where I come from on the thoughts here. So, two iconic pieces of aircraft technology that we get from Cobra, and it is nice whenever we see it kind of ported over for GI Joe, so we get to kind of have it for Joe's. But it's funny because quite often I think we find really iconic pieces of equipment for the bad guys. I was like, God, that's really cool. I really wish I could have that for the good guys. And then we get some splinter little groups here and there that are kind of posted here or there or wherever else. And we get some of those brought in, kind of like Tiger Force, where they have they take the Rattler and then I can't remember what name they gave it, but it's now in the Tiger Force lineup, which is really cool because that's it's an A10 that's now a VTOL, and then we get to throw it in for the Joes. I mean, it's very iconic in that regard. So wonderful to see. in this regard, I mean, to being able to see this as a the Sky Patrol and all that for a time period. Um, and then likewise, we get some of the Joe vehicles for Cobra. Um, and we can easily explain that as it's been captured material that was out there, and then they got enough of it that they decided, well, we will have a small subgroup or whatever, and we just kind of let them have those. So, all right. Well, another wonderful addition to our group to bring into Star Wars. Hope you enjoyed the series. I enjoy bringing this to you every day. We'll keep going at it until we run out of stuff, and we'll go from there. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you in the next video.